Ian, good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Pretty
Busy?
fantastic.
A little busy?
A little bit crazy. For a little bit of context and some background. So, those of you who don't know, Parallel Drive, I initially founded in 2013 and really started to kick it off in 2014. And initially, the idea was I wanted to help lots of companies start businesses. I spent the first decade of my career doing consulting for software engineering. Then took some full-time jobs working I did shopping carts for Zumba Fitness. I was a tech lead there. Then I went and joined a company called Bandpage. We were the number two app on Facebook. And we pulled in so many people because we pulled in major label music artists. And they brought with them huge swaths of fan bases. And that eventually got purchased by YouTube. It's now YouTube Artist Pages. I joined a little company called Tout, which was basically TikTok before TikTok. We were Webby nominated for our work on the Wall Street Journal World Stream there, and I was tech lead on that project. And that project was an AI spinoff, Stanford Research Institute, and we had state-of-the-art video to text transcription. From there, I joined Adobe and helped architect Adobe Creative Cloud. After that, I went on and formed Parallel Drive. I wanted to go back into consulting and help companies create great products really fast. In 2023, I saw an opportunity to go back to Adobe and lead their Gen AI offerings. I have a long history in AI. I built my first AI model in the 1990s. By the time Gen AI started to kick off, I'd been doing AI work on and off basically my entire career. I did AI for drones, robotics, medical diagnostics, and all kinds of stuff. I had lots of AI clients at Parallel Drive. So I saw this opportunity to basically lead generative AI for Adobe Firefly client. That turned into Adobe Firefly platform, which powers experiences for all of Adobe's products, Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, all that kind of stuff. When I joined Adobe Firefly, it was a $0 prototype. When I left, $5 billion in AI revenue. Then I decided, as soon as I left Adobe, I got to reform Parallel Drive. This time, we're going to productize things, offer AI services in the cloud, and serve clients who want to learn AI-driven development and use AI agents to their maximum potential benefit. So that's what we're doing at Parallel Drive. We're building AI agents, and we're building an open source framework called the AIDD framework. And we're going to use that and test our agents and test our agent processes with real clients. One of our real clients is a company we just started working with, and I think some of the members of the team are here, and we're going to have a lot of fun. One of the things that I wanted to show was the AIDD framework and a little bit about how it works. Maybe I can share my screen and show you the open source repository and then do some live coding and see what comes out of it. I'm going to post this link in the chat so that you can follow along and play with it yourself. Have some fun. All right, chat, here we go. Hi, Jesse. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Elliot.
It's Eric.
Eric.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I go by my first name. Nice to meet you. Likewise. Are you both from Wolf Games?
I'm a game developer at Wolf Games.
Very cool. Maybe we should do a couple of other intros. Mick Rippon's a great friend of mine from way back. Mick, you want to say hello?
Hi guys, I'm in Australia, so completely different time zone. I'm a full stack developer working for a vertical farm company, which is very different to games. But I wish I was doing games. Trust me.
Well, we probably will have a lot more contract work, and we can send you some work if you want. Ian, do you want to quickly just introduce yourself? Just for reference, Ian is our first engineering hire. He's a staff founding engineer for Parallel Drive. Ian, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. My name's Ian White. I'm based in Austin, Texas. I've been following Eric for over a decade. I had a little experience with AI development at my previous job where we were given licenses as soon as Claude and Cursor were taking off. So had a lot of experience right away, which was great, but I did find myself in the trap of vibe coding like kind of crap. And then once I discovered AIDD through Eric's blog post and tried it out, I was blown away by how much more incredible it makes the experience and how much more useful the output is. It's trustable and actually kind of decent software engineering. I'm really excited to keep learning about that and working with the team on really exciting problems. My background is mostly in web technologies, React, Node, and platform engineering. I haven't built any video games myself, but I love playing them and I really enjoy music. So that's a big part of games as well. So hopefully I can lend some opinions there too, in addition to software development. Great to meet you all.
Just FYI, this meeting and all of our weekly AIDD trainings are going to be public. So if you have any trouble with that, let me know and I'll edit out anything. But just ping me offline or something and I'll take care of that. This is going to be public and go up on my YouTube channel. The great thing about this is I want to get the whole AIDD open source community involved in learning how to really use it to full advantage. Once you get really familiar with the AIDD framework, you can produce better code quality than a team full of senior software engineers. It really adds process adherence at scale. So it really helps everybody kind of speak the same language in terms of code quality and test coverage. It has in-depth security review features that really cover vulnerabilities that AI models are not even on their radar. I'm a security expert and I've done security for JP Morgan Chase. I was the director of dApp integrations for Exodus Wallet, and I did the security architecture for MyCrypto, which is the second most popular crypto wallet, desktop wallet. Exodus was the first most popular crypto wallet. I did their security architecture, right? So I'm a security expert and I'm in the process of putting a lot of that security best practice into the AIDD framework. It's a great way to make sure that your app is as secure as it can be. It really helps you create code bases that are actually better than typical code bases run by senior software engineers. A lot of people didn't believe me when I told them back in 2023, yeah, this AI can produce software on par with senior software engineers. But I think with Claude Code, people are starting to see that. A lot of people are still running into AI slop. And the AIDD framework, even with Claude Code by itself will produce garbage, over-engineered solutions, a lot of duplicated code, unnecessary code paths, and also a lot of security vulnerabilities. So the AIDD framework kind of throws a lot of process on top of that, and including the test-driven development process, having it run through TDD, and having it come up with a good plan to start out with, and sanity check that plan and make sure there's not a lot of duplication in the plan. And then running through that plan with test-driven development, it really keeps the AI on track and helps it understand how not to write too much code and how not to over-engineer things or write things that it's not going to need. It starts to run off on tangents, and without AIDD, it runs off on tangents and builds a bunch of stuff that it doesn't need to build, or it introduces major security vulnerabilities. AIDD framework keeps it on track. It also makes sure that you have really good test coverage for unit tests and Playwright end-to-end tests and things like that. So you can get this really well tested, really well documented, very high quality code base. It also has a lot of rules. I'm just going to share my screen and show you around at this point, intro a little bit. Okay. So let me give you a brief overview of how things are structured. When you install the AIDD framework in a new repository, it's going to dump this AI folder into your code repository on purpose, right? And this is a good thing because then it makes it available to your project retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. We just call it RAG. So it makes the AIDD framework available in the RAG context for the AI agents as it's working on your code base. And that's a really important feature that you want to commit the AIDD framework to your code repository so that AI agents can see it. You want to commit it and put it on GitHub so that the reviewing agents can see and use the framework. Because when you tag them in PR reviews on GitHub, they will use the framework to do better code reviews. Let me give you an example of that. I'm going to show you current pull request So Jan Hesters is one of our team members on the open source project. He just did a refactor to turn those rules and commands into agent skills. For those who don't know, agent skills is an open specification for teaching AI agents new tricks, supported by all the major coding agents now, Claude Code, Cursor, and all those kinds of things. Google's IDE and stuff, they all support the agent skills specification. So we're refactoring everything to use agent skills. And let me just show you. So I tagged Cursor agent for review, and notice this is /review. So it's using the review command from the AIDD repository to conduct its review. And you can go and see how detailed this review is. It does a really thorough review. So first, it finds some duplication. It points out that we probably don't need Claude.md duplicating our content from our please.mdc, right? It checks for those kinds of duplications. Another thing that it found was a major issue. Aha, here we go. It found a major security issue. When the AI refactored this skill, it rewrote how to do timing safe compares, and it defaulted to the common way, which is to call the Node Crypto API timing safe compare. You don't want to do that because it reveals information about that thing. It also trusts the platform to do a safe timing safe compare, which trusts the compiler. You can't trust compilers to do timing safe comparisons because if the compiler is too smart, it'll see that the comparison matches and shortcut it. And that makes it not timing safe. And when those comparisons are not timing safe, then attackers can use statistics and play hangman to guess your tokens. So you don't want that. Basically, it took a really nice fortified fortress and turned it into a little plastic chain link lock. The AI review caught it because the AIDD framework knows it should look for things like that. It's like, nope, wait, hold up. This is a major security vulnerability and we're going to call this out. So you get these really detailed deep dive reviews on your code. And one thing that you can do is you can just feed this stuff into a new task epic. And I'll get into task epics in a minute, but you can just feed it into a new task epic and have the AI work that task epic, solve all the issues, update the PR, and get it rolling. So you can get the AI to automatically fix all these issues as well. So it'll find them, create a plan to fix them, and then fix them, and then we go and review again. One thing I've found is it's kind of hard to review too much. I sometimes will do like 6 passes of reviews before I merge a feature. And this is way better code review than any human code review I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen a human code review go this deep on looking for security issues and stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty crazy cool. And it's really cool that you can get all this, but you only get this if you commit the AI folder to your code repository. Right? It has to be in the code repository so that it can use RAG to pull up those commands and use them. This is an important part of it. Having the AIDD framework become part of your code repository is a really important feature of the AIDD framework. If you just get agent skills on the Claude skills market, right? Those agent skills probably will get added to your Claude dot folder and probably not committed to your code repository and probably not useful in the context of doing code reviews on GitHub. So actually having it committed is an important part of the framework. So don't think you should like add this to Git ignore or anything like that. You should have it in Git. You should have it committed. All right. This gives you the recommended actions and priority sorted actions. Let's see. Medium priority skills, consolidate Claude, update documentation. I don't see the security thing in its summary, but it's in there. Oh, it's this minor issue. It misclassified it. That's probably why it's not in that summary. It misclassified it as a minor issue, but it's actually a major issue, right? So then we do cursor agent and ask it to review again, unable to follow up after multiple attempts. The agent may be experiencing issues. All right, I'll do a re-review of that. Let's go back to the code repository so I can show you around a little bit. The AI folder has rules and commands. That PR we just added is going to move all the rules into skills. And skills are different in that they allow you to specify tools the AI agents are allowed to use. And that connects it to the built-in tool calling functions of your AI agent scaffold, whether that's Claude Code or Cursor Agent. It identifies all those tools that it can call and adds them to their database. They use retrieval augmented generation, and that can be either symbolic retrieval using traditional code like JavaScript or Python, or it can also use AI-based retrieval. So it can do semantic search over the code repository and find things that way. It basically surfaces those things. The commands folder surfaces slash commands that we can use. And you can see there's a bunch of slash commands in here. We've got commands for discover. Discover is for product discovery, product management kinds of operations. And the result of doing discover can be fed into the task planning routine, which is down here. You can see task. So this is saying use task creator to plan and execute a task. If you go over here to AI rules, you'll find the corresponding, and this is going to be turned into skills. But if we go to the task creator, you can see task.creator, task-creator.mdc. Click on that, and it opens up the task script. Here you can see various things that go into the task. And I'm going to show you an example of these task epics in just a second. This is primarily the way that we like to plan our projects. We start with a task epic, and that breaks things down into requirements. Let me show you the requirements. So requirements basically gives it this very, very simple template. Given some situation, should thing that it needs to do, right? So given I'm a new user that needs to sign up, should offer me email magic link sign up, right? And that's how you surface the requirements. I think you can translate those into unit tests using our unit test scaffold. So if we go to TDD, this is the test-driven development script. And by the way, this language that you're looking at is called pseudolang. Pseudolang is a programming language that I want to say I invented it, but it's more like I discovered it in the latent space. Starting in 2020, I started investigating coding with AI with GPT-3. I got early access to GPT-3 in the summer of 2020, and I basically worked on it full time. And then in 2023, I decided I'm going to consolidate all this stuff that I've learned about prompting AI using hundreds of tests per feature and statistical analysis. I basically explored the latent space and figured out what syntax works best. I compared a whole bunch of different programming language syntaxes to see which one would perform best. I did lots of statistical analysis, and then I gathered all of that and created pseudolang. You may notice that pseudo works better for prompting than whatever you've been doing before, and you'll get better results, use fewer tokens, and your response quality will be improved. You'll probably also have lower latency and lower costs overall using pseudolang. So major thing, really cool.
Are you using, sorry to interrupt, Eric, are you typing out pseudolang from scratch yourself, or are you just sort of typing an overview and then AI to generate pseudolang? So I looked into it and it's very wordy.
So coming soon. So pseudolang actually saves about 30% on token usage compared to natural language prompts. If you just have markdown prompts, pseudolang will save you tokens and be a lot less wordy than natural language. Am I typing the pseudolang myself? Sometimes, yes. Coming soon to AIDD framework. AI has not been really great at writing pseudolang until very recently, but I've finally got a good skill that teaches it how to use pseudolang more correctly. That pseudolang skill is coming to the AIDD framework very soon, and also a skill that builds on top of it. So if you want to create a new skill in the AIDD framework, very soon you'll just be able to use the skills skill to create a new skill. And you'll be able to create your own custom extensions to the AIDD framework. And it will use pseudolang under the hood automatically. So you don't have to learn or type pseudolang manually to take advantage of the system. Learning it will be cool and helpful, but you don't strictly have to. When you use the AIDD framework, you're inheriting the result of 6 years of research and development and intense statistical analysis of the latent space and figuring out what works and what doesn't. I stay on top of AI research papers and agent scaffolding research and all kinds of stuff. As I learn new tricks related to AIDD and building agents, I tend to toss them into the AIDD framework and improve it. So you're inheriting not just my knowledge over the last 5 years, but all this cutting edge research that has already been incorporated into the AIDD framework and well-worn battle-tested prompts I've been using in production software engineering since 2023, when we really started doing. 2023 was the first time we had like usable software agents that could build projects and contribute. I had a team trained on AIDD, and we started doing about 80% code generation using our agent scaffolds. By the end of 2023, we were up to 90%. And now we're at very near 100% of all our code generated by AI using the AIDD framework these days. So if you ask one of our team members like Ian, like, how much code did you directly write? Hopefully he's probably going to say none.
Okay. I didn't think it'd see the day, but it's true.
Yeah. And the same goes for me. I haven't directly written production JavaScript in a long time. It's been a while. The AI does just about everything for us. And this AIDD framework just kind of helps it do a better job. The TDD stuff, it teaches it, as you can see, it gives it like 5 questions that every unit test must answer. And then it gives it the right way formula. So tests must be readable, isolated, and integrated, thorough, and explicit. So it kind of teaches it how to write good tests. And this is kind of how the whole AIDD framework works. And one thing that I've got a major advantage on this stuff over just about everybody else in the industry, because between 2014 and 2023, I trained dozens of teams on how to write better software. And I did a lot of one-on-one mentorship, and I learned how to quickly pass on senior engineering skills to software engineers. A lot of that knowledge is captured in the AIDD framework. So we basically, using very few tokens, train the AI how to write code like a senior software engineer. So you'll get really high quality tests. You'll get better unit test descriptions than you've seen out of your human peers, much better, much more readable unit tests. Your test coverage will go way up because it's using the TDD process as it's implementing. The primary task of a developer using the AIDD framework is to remind the AI to use the AIDD framework. And as long as it's adhering to the process, it's going to produce really good code. So as a developer, your job becomes like just babysit it and just watch it and make sure that it stays on task and it's using the framework. And if it veers off, just have it review and re-implement and get it back on track. So your job transforms from software design and engineering into managing parallel agents running AIDD framework processes on parallel tasks. So sometimes I'll have 5, 6 agents running at the same time, running down tasks and implementing things using TDD and reviewing things on GitHub. So I'll be one person running 6 different work streams 10 times faster than I could run one by myself. This really gives us major productivity boosts. I've been telling people like our early teams were getting 10 to 20x improvements on their productivity. With the most recent versions of the AIDD framework, I'm probably closer to 50 or 60 times more productive than I would be writing code the traditional way. And that materially changes the scope of projects we can take on. It materially changes the kind of work that we can do. It makes things possible that would have been cost prohibitive or impossible to hire enough people and scale fast enough to get it done the old way. So what we'll end up with is just software that suddenly has mind-blowing capabilities, stuff you could not have done before the invention of generative AI is now possible using AIDD and the AIDD framework. It really, really transforms what you can do. Not just like, a lot of people think, well, this is just going to speed me up a little bit. No, it's going to fundamentally transform what you can even think about taking on. And that is huge. And I don't think that a lot of people are really caught up on exactly how crazy that is, but it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. All right, go ahead.
What do you say? So now, I guess almost to the way we kind of don't really write a whole lot of assembly language anymore, and there's a time when you didn't always have the luxury of using a higher level language. These days, it's the opposite, right? So would you say it's almost analogous to that? It was kind of going up one more level.
Yeah. It's using AIDD framework is like the difference between writing an assembly language and writing in JavaScript with the web platform underneath you, powering all your layout and GPU rendering and stuff, right? Yeah. And it's really like moving up. Imagine if you could skip 6 layers of abstraction and jump to a super high level. That's what it's like. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add to Lewis's comment, there's an interview with Martin Fowler, and that's exactly how he describes the paradigm shift from assembly to higher level languages. That's how he sees this. I thought I'd throw that in there for anyone who's interested in checking that out. It's a really good discussion. Additionally, Mick's comment on using pseudo-lang, like typing it out. Something that seems so simple, but I miss that Eric turned me on to that was really helpful is you don't have to use an entire program like in your prompts. Something as simple as just piping commands into each other instead of writing like /commit and using natural language. You can really save time. I've created some commands and roles from that. Very composable, even on the smallest level, and speeds up your workflow.
Yeah. Speaking of which, if you want to see like the most powerful thing I've ever written in pseudolang, let me show you. If we go to rules and you look at please MDC, to trigger this, all you have to do is in your AI agent say please and ask it to do something. It pulls this into context. This little script right here, show your work, restate, ideate, reflect critically, expand orthogonally. None of these functions are defined anywhere. It just infers the meaning. It knows what those things mean. And then you can just pipe. This is the pipe operator from pseudolang. So you can just pipe the output from one into the input of the next. It composes them very naturally and intelligently. The pipe operator is probably going to be the biggest productivity win in terms of accomplishing a whole lot with very simple syntax and very few tokens. Let me show you a demonstration using this. If we went to our pull requests over here, coming soon, the pseudolang framework or the AIDD framework is we're going to have a recursive language model skill. This is going to give us major retrieval augmented generation over our AI agents and robust agent capabilities in the cloud agents. Let me just pull up Claude.ai. I use this a lot in the web agents in Claude Code. Oh, I'm not logged in. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second while I do my authentication. One moment. Sorry for the dead air. You guys can like talk amongst yourselves while I'm doing this. Maybe, Ian, can you share some insights of things that you've learned over the last few days?
Yeah, sure. So other than that, a nice little tip about using pipe in your prompt to the AI agent, just getting in the workflow of using the commands was something that it actually took me a bit of practice to get the hang of it, even though I'd read the tutorials and, gone through it a few times. But my introduction to AI was like, I would type out this long prompt, this long paragraph and hope for the best, right? And the more I started practicing with AIDD, I realized that I could get in this really good workflow of making sure I set up the framework correctly, and I could just go to task and it would read the vision document, the agents, and create a well thought out and planned task list. And then from that, instead of typing out what I wanted to do, I just do /execute. It would automatically go to that task list, pick the first task, start fleshing it out. Once that's done, then just /review, have it review the code. I'm really just typing / commands, whereas before I was writing paragraphs and trying to craft the output to what I wanted. The real unlock for me was just seeing how like getting into that workflow, how powerful it was and how fun it was. Like, you know, learning once AI hit the scene, I was kind of worried, like, do I even want to be a software engineer anymore? Is this going to be fun? Like cleaning up a bunch of AI slop or trying to make sense of it. It's just so much more fun than ever because it's like having somebody pull weeds for you. They're doing all the tedious stuff and you get to focus on bigger problems and more creative output. I built a few apps to both learn the framework and create things I wanted to work on, like an AI cello accompanist and an EMG sensor for muscle activity. I was able to build these apps that might have taken me months or even a year to do in days or a couple of weeks time. And they're pretty well architected applications, and it was really fun to output them. And at this point, learning what I've learned, they're not throwaway. They can be trustable and easy to add to and easy to extend. So yeah, it's just a bit of practice and then it starts clicking. It becomes a really great workflow. Like, I love it.
Fantastic. All right. I'm going to share my screen again now that I've got this squared away. 1 second. We got just a few more minutes left, so hopefully we can do a little demo instead of just talking your ears off. In future sessions, we'll do a lot more live coding and demos. I just wanted to show you around the framework a little bit and familiarize you with what's inside the secret sauce. All right, so let me go to AI. I'm going to show you a little bit about how to use this thing. I'll go through how I use it in Claude Code a little bit. Let me go to here, go share my screen again. Share. I think that's the right one. There we go. So if you go to rules and we go to please.mvc, I'm just going to show you how powerful this thing is. This is really important because this little prompt, this little sub prompt can be appended to any prompt to turn any model into a thinking model that actually performs better than most pre-trained thinking models. The way it does that is it kicks it outside of what it usually does. A lot of AI models, the way that they work is they kind of have this next token selection and they select the most probable next token. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the best next token. A lot of them are lazy. They'll just pick whatever is most convenient, which is probably a good reason why they're terrible at security, because most people are terrible at security. Security is an afterthought for most developers. And they don't think deeply about what's really the best practice for security here. So anyway, this prompt adds a couple of phases to it. First, we restate, make sure we have a good grip on the user's prompt. So this is basically reprompting. And by the way, there's been a ton of research on the quality difference between just taking a user's prompt and running with it and having the AI model reprompt. It turns out that AIs that reprompt themselves deliver substantially better results. When we tell it to restate the user's intent, we're actually triggering it to do that reprompting process and improve the original user prompt and improve the AI's contextual awareness as they build their solution. We get that reprompt at the very beginning. And then Ideate goes through it like a brainstorming process. So it considers more options instead of just using whatever the default choice. The reflect critically thing is a piece where most AI agents, by default, they don't think about, did I really make the right choice? Reflect critically tells them to think about, did I really make the right choice? Am I running down the right path, or should I consider other options? And this helps them explore a much, much wider solution space. And as they search that wider solution space, they can come up with much better responses and answers. And this is baked right into the AIDD framework. It uses it frequently as you're building solutions. Anytime you see these little icons pop up, that means it's using this framework to think deeper about something. You can also manually trigger that because we have this depth option here. So you can manually trigger it and just say -D10 in your prompt, and it'll kick that off with an in-depth exploration, right? Expand orthogonally says, what other options should I be thinking about? If it's reflecting critically and finds something wrong with what's already thought, we expand orthogonally to kick it out of its rut and see, is there something else I should be looking at? And then we score, rank, evaluate, and force it to make a choice about a path. So now we've said, fork out lots of options and then choose the best option instead of just doing whatever's by default. Fork it out, look at lots of different options, and then do the best option. This is inspired by research on the best thinkers and research organizations. How do they organize their thinking process when solving complex problems? That's what inspired this particular prompt research on that topic. So we go to human psychology and organizational psychology research, and we pull this back into the AIDD framework. So you get research-backed, data-backed prompts that improve quality tremendously. This is all scientific method all over this thing. And lots of research and lots of experiments. After it's done all that, then it responds. So I just want to show you what that looks like in practice here. So I'm going to say, please summarize this whole group of task epics and the benefits we may see as a result of this effort. And then I'm just going to plug that little prompt into it. And hopefully the model responds quickly. Sometimes Claude is a little unresponsive because it's growing so fast that they're having a hard time keeping up with the growth. Aaron, yes.
Yeah.
We did not define them anywhere in this framework. They're just English language words that the AI understands. I took the best organizational thinking processes and reverse engineered what makes those really work, and did a statistical analysis of the latent space, which is a lot of A/B tests at scale, like hundreds of tests per word. Looked at synonyms we could try, which ones work best in this context, and had a language model evaluating and scoring the results. I was sanity checking those scores. This prompt is the result of thousands of human hours of research. So yeah, that's where that came from. By the way, all those little emojis also carry semantic meaning that the AI understands, and it significantly enhances the results. The response scores go way up by adding those emojis. Pretty crazy stuff. All right. So you can see if we go, all right, here we go. Where is it? It came up with a lot of crazy stuff here. It went deep because this is a big epic. We're building a 5-phase transformation of the AIDD framework. We're going to replace YAML with SQLite databases, which is going to really enhance the performance significantly, and also add reliability because we're going to be able to do structured queries over our data in the AIDD framework. And then we're going to add Gyron, which is a self-documenting hypermedia APIs as the primary IO mechanism for our AI agents. And Gyron is basically, if you've heard of MCPs, Gyron is basically a dramatically enhanced version of MCPs that uses about 20% fewer tokens and adds capabilities such as using hypermedia as the engine of application state. So you can do things like express state machines in your APIs. Then we're going to expose front matter index as a queryable API. This is to add progressive discovery directly in our SQLite database queries. So we can use that to enhance the performance of progressive discovery for our AI agent capabilities. Then we're going to convert our product manager to a database-backed skill. It's going to take advantage of that database engine to handle things like user stories, requirements, and map all those in a database that it can then query and update status. And then it can sync that to Jira, Trello, or whatever task manager you have. And then we have enable recursive language model exploration of code bases. Recursive language models are a new paradigm for enhancing the context handling capabilities of language models, basically by adding fan-out searches across symbolic lookups, database lookups, and semantic searches using trained AI models for embeddings. And then it fans out, does searches in parallel, and then unifies those and does this context engineering thing in real time to respond to user queries. So we're basically adding this latest cutting edge research on how to best define AI agent frameworks and pulling that into the AIDD framework. This is 5 epic task. Normally, I would budget 3 months if humans were going to do this. I suspect we'll have this committed and released next week. This is the AIDD framework. So yeah, this is fun. So here it goes, it talks about what problem are we solving, and it's listing some pain points. AI agents give incomplete answers on large code bases, like more than 100 files. YAML story maps become unmanageable at scale. We can't query like show high priority stories for Persona X. Agents miss relevant files, like no dependency. It doesn't have full dependency awareness over the code base. This is going to allow it to build a structured database of dependencies and have full dependency awareness over the context of your entire code base. No API layer, so it's got brittle file manipulation stuff. We're adding that Gyrant APIs for the API layer for dealing with all of our agent commands in the AIDD framework from now on. The context window limits. Agents struggle when they get more than 50,000 tokens. In truth, agents struggle when they have more than 160 lines of code. They start to really slip. We deal with that by adding a ton of process on top of it. But what if it could give you a better answer the first time and you could save tokens on reviews? We're really doing this context engineering refactor to tackle that problem. We're building new capabilities, API layer, intelligence, stuff like that. That's going to reflect critically what's different versus existing solutions, bigger context windows, external DB, and then it's expanding orthogonally. How does this stuff work, right? As you can see, it went into deep detail on all this stuff. That's kind of how it works. And then we can start saying, please begin implementing in the logical order. Let's going to look at the task epic series. We have one unifying task epic, and then it breaks out into several other task epics. I think we got 5 epics in total with a bunch of different requirements that it's keeping track of. So now it's just going to say, let's do this. Let's do this. I should have used the execute command. But I'm just going to say, remember to execute, creating an AIDD directory, implementing SQLite schema creation script. It's just going to run on its own. And I could walk away. I could open a new tab. I can start working on other tasks in parallel with this. I could fan out and say, okay, this is doing phase 1. I can probably start on phase 2 while this is running, or start on another task epic that's unrelated to this while this is running. And it's just automatically creating a bunch of code. This is the workflow now. Remind it to follow the process, right? So I reminded it, and now it's going to do the schemas and testing and TDD process. So yeah, it's just running on its own now. I can open parallel work streams. I can come and review this stuff. Remember to review as you implement each requirement. Make sure you're watching tests fail and then implementing, right?
Is this executing unit tests as it's going, or does it do it all at the end?
Yeah, it executes unit tests as it goes.
Okay.
I have another meeting I need to get to, but that's the framework, and that's the thing in action. As you can see, it's running down the tasks, it's writing code for me, and I can do sometimes 6 or 8 of these in parallel, and I'd be literally 60, 70 times faster than I was before AIDD. Is the AIDD framework. And I can trust that the output is going to be same quality output that it would be if I wrote the code myself. So anyway, that's the AI framework. Hope you all enjoyed. Next week, we're going to dive deeper. Thank you, everybody.